Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Man, that intro video is throwing me off again because like I was used to the long one that included the Fort Worth Billiard intro. You know what I mean? And then now back to which we appreciate Fort Worth Billiards for sure, but now being back to like the shorter one, I'm almost like, all right, I still got another minute to go. No, not so much though. How are you, man?
It's Friday the 13th. Something was bound to get you.
I know. What do you got going on, Mike? You don't strike me as a big Friday the 13th guy. I know you're not going and seeing any scary movies these days.
13's a lucky. If you're Italian, 13's a lucky number, so it's all good.
Oh, there you go. Well, maybe go to the casino or something then. Let it ride, baby. A lot of stuff going on in the pool world. Mike, NJ Pool Player, says action. I don't know what's up with this. So I use Restream to go and do all this, and you can kind of see his thing now down there in the bottom. But like it's not like it used to be. I don't know why it is that way. I wonder if we do. Let me see if I do this. Yeah. No, I don't like that one. But I like the way the chat was. It had its own like separate box.
You gotta get the comments off the screen because if it starts climbing into my space, we're gonna have a problem.
No, yeah. We'll make sure we know Mike's premiere over there. Well, look, now you can even move it.
One word answers from people.
Oh, look, I can move it anywhere now. I mean, you guys can, now you can kind of see a little bit, but I can actually move it left or right. So that's kind of neat. But I don't know. I got to get with Restream, see what the hell is going on.
By the third or fourth or fifth or sixth one, it's going to start scrolling into your frame, buddy.
Like the other day, yeah. Which, by the way, how did you get any? Did you get any messages about that conversation we had the other day? Out of curiosity?
No, you were doing the conversing, man. I just kept my mouth shut.
Well,
you had plenty of your own rope.
Lord knows what I do with it too, Mike. So you know what? Like what's that?
It just interestingly, like right after that, we started getting announcements of U.S. Announcements coming up in the next week and things like that. Yeah. So, greasy wheel gets the grease.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's try one way or the other to get their attention. You know what I mean? And so, whatever we got to do in that regard. But I did get a bit of a nugget from Matchroom, which is great via the connection train. That some U.S. Open announcements are coming in the next few days, Mike. And when I mean announcements, I mean some big time announcements and things that I'm excited for. I think a lot of fans are going to be excited for as well. We've kind of seen this mix of events where it's going through. Some events are falling off, some events are coming on. Obviously, the U.S. Open's a staple within the pool industry for forever, and so to get some good news following them leaving Atlantic City this past year, it's good to finally get that announcement coming, especially given the time frame. Depending on when it's announced, I'd imagine we're gonna have a plenty amount of time to get all of your travel plans and all these things kind of arranged, which is pretty cool. So,
yeah, no, I mean it's mid-February. We're getting what we had last year in July.
Oh yeah, which by the way is pretty good. Like all things considered. I mean, I take it. We always bitched about the calendar, and I think they get pretty annoyed at us complaining as it is. You know what I mean? But like it seems like some of it's kind of working. Listen, and I know it's not just coming from us, by the way, either.
Oh, yeah, we got to have something to talk about. Give us something to talk about.
Well, there's plenty of stuff to talk about as it is, but make sure and keep your notifications on to the Matchroom Facebook page, along with their other social media platforms and Instagram, all those things. I'm not in their TikTok though, by the way, but yeah, I'm excited to see this stuff coming out in the next coming days. They got the PLP going on, Mike, and before we jump into that and the the last announcement in terms of the player, which was a bit of a surprise, and a couple different angles I want to dissect it with you with, by the way.
Yeah.
Saw this morning, Koch brothers snag a $500,000 bag out there in China.
Yeah, it's kind of it's. I don't know if it's a 500,000. I originally wrote that, and it's there's all these different they refer to it as RMB, then CNY, the yuan, and yada yada. It's somewhere between total, but I would say 400,000 for sure, right around there. As high as 500, but it depends on how who's giving you the numbers.
Yeah.
But still, for them to finish first and second, I mean, they still got to play each other. I don't know, I don't think they're going to be trying too hard. It's going to be,
Yeah.
because the happiest guy in the room is the third Cole brother. You don't have to do anything if he gets his.
What do you think? What do you like? Do you think that at a certain point, they're just like, hey, come on, dog, you gotta you gotta like, is he handling all the managerial duties now at this point? Because he's
Who's
got to
that?
pick up the slack in some regard. Copenhagen.
Han? No,
Yeah.
he just rides away, man.
Yeah, he's got a mate in the shade.
But they're not chopping this up three ways. Come on, be serious. I mean, they have three different lives. They live in three different places. Co's got his wife, his girlfriend, wife, whatever, Big Co, and
She's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, she's great. They got different,
yeah.
Different needs and levels
Sure.
of whatever. So,
yeah, but they're also like,
it's amazing in a game like that these two guys get through. I think the field was like 450, 400 plus. So it's that's a steep field, and I don't think they had to play first round matches, but
yeah. Well, they should have. I mean, like they wouldn't have any, even if they were in any kind of seating, it would, they would be on the lower end of it, given the fact that they hadn't been playing full time
they're sponsored.
And Hayball. Sure.
They got pulled in and sponsored by Duya, so they're getting preferential treatment right out of the get.
Well,
a sponsor's not paying them a bunch of money to come in there and play first round matches against Stevie Wonder. So, they're fine. Gideon mentions the payouts, and I do want to talk about the payouts because, there's huge money that they're throwing around these tournaments. But,
sure.
The fact of the matter is, there's 450 players in this event. Fifth place is $7,000, $8,000. Okay, that's fifth place out of 450 players who've never missed a ball in a year and a half. So
let me tell you, those are like that's better than Derby City, buddy. I'll tell you that.
It is, but it's a top heavy thing. So now they've got special arrangements with top players as far as picking up their airfare and their hotel and things like that. So their upfront costs are taken. I think you get, according to our buddy Chris Alexander, who's actually living in Asia now and playing in a lot of these events.
Oh, is he?
You get your airfare, hotel, things like that taken care of if you win two matches. So that's a big, that can cut your nut a lot, obviously. But still, if you're talking about living, but if you're still talking about living wages, forget the Joy tournaments. The Joy tournaments are like 700 players, and the money's bigger, but they got these absolute killer players over there. So yeah, the guys who finish on top all the time are doing really well. But it's not a lot different than the tournaments that we're used to watching, where the other players who are scuffling their way through 24th, 23rd, things like that.
Sure.
They're not earning a hell of a lot of a living wage out of it.
Well, but you got to imagine that whenever you are able to break the dam, at least you get something to keep yourself swimming for a while, so there's that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that'll keep you in the game for a year or
Yeah.
so. But still,
Like, relatively
that's a
speaking, you know
hell
what I
of a
mean?
field of players to go through. Yeah,
Look, I think
it's a lot to go through.
it's remarkable what they're able to do considering they're American pool players. You know what I mean? And so, and I know that's not their first tournament. You know, they dipped out of Reyes Cup contention to go and play a Duya event last year, controversially, if depending on which side you're looking at it through. But clearly, that that payoff has paid off. You know, that gamble has paid off for them. And that's not even including the fact that what we don't know in terms of their own sponsorship money that they're getting for going out there, which is pretty lucrative from what I'm hearing, depending on the caliber of player you are, you know. And so they take
Yeah,
they
right.
take
Can
they
be.
take care of them. Where I know some of these other events and even these invitational events, depending on what it is, you know, maybe they'll take care of a hotel, maybe they'll take care of airfare. It used to be a little different, but a lot of people these days are buttoning up on their bottom line. And so and
Yeah,
you start seeing these players, Alex mentioned as well on the post, you know, as far as them taking care of airfare, like they're not dumb. They know who are better draws depending on who's coming in and playing their events. But the good thing is, like I mentioned,
yeah,
once you're getting through, even though it can be top heavy, which can be difficult depending on where you end up finishing, it's like at least you get a pretty decent amount. You know, imagine Fran, you know, wins the US or the world championship the year before, it busts up to whatever it is, $500,000. You know what I mean? And so imagine if you would have been that way before, but now it's like, well, now that's a normal like Monday tournament out there for those guys because there's pretty decent money out there in those Duya and Hayball events. And
yeah.
even when you're playing like Hayball style event, it's like you buy in for whatever's $100. You don't even like when you buy in, you double your money. I could buy in, go to and out, and I'm doubling my money like off the bat, you know. And so it's still not a great return if you're only buying in for $100 and you consider your expenses. But my point is that you're not fading so much to get just peanuts on the back end of it, you know. So but it led to a much bigger
Right.
question, Mike, which you posted on there, and that is, you know, you probably won't see them playing uh you know,
No.
American pool tournaments. Is that speculation on your end, Mike, or is that like word that you've gotten from speaking with them?
You know, it's a couple of people that I've talked to over there, and you know, I've messaged the Co brothers, and you know, they're not a controversial group.
They're non-committal. They want to play. They're Sweden
Yeah,
is what they are. Yeah.
but they don't like you know, they just don't want to they don't want to like throw shade at anything. They don't want to like call people out. They don't
Sure.
want to. So, but you know,
Well,
I asked about, you know, what about other events outside of Asia and WNT and WPA, PBS? And she said, well, you know, they said, you know, if we have time, we'll still participate in some events. But at present, there are no plans. So now, you know, would they go play in the World Championship and you know, in Saudi if there's nothing competing with it? Probably. I mean, I don't know why they
sure.
wouldn't. But are we going to see them at the European Open, you know, U.S. Open, you know, places like that?
But if you're matching, Mike, do you want them?
My gut feeling is not likely.
If you're matching, though, would you want them playing in that world championship? Because they're more than capable of winning. And what I mean by that is, like, would you want a player who you know, one, more than has the ability to win your event, but number two is the likelihood that they won't be around anymore. And you know how much they like to piggyback these world number whatevers that really don't
Yeah,
mean
right.
shit in their ranking system. But like I remember years ago, you know, Wojciech gets in off a qualifier, which was just ridiculous to begin with because he should have been an automatic because Wojciech is a world champion. But he gets in on a qualifier, makes it to Final Four, right? And you're not even hearing his name in Mosconi Cup because you're not a WNT pro. Which, by the way, if you on the note of like Justin Bergman, it apparently doesn't matter if you're WNT pro anyway. So I guess it just depends on what event and who's making that call as to if a WNT pro means anything. Because
Well,
for
I mean,
Mosconi,
we
it
know
means
the
something, but
PLP.
for
We know the PLP is different. We know the PLP is different. I mean, Sale
we're-
PLP. She's not a WNT pro.
Well, listen, that was just low hanging fruit as I was getting through this, but we'll save it for a little bit, you know. But
dig
yeah,
a hole for
I could
yourself just for grins. You got to.
I could help myself, man. It was lining up too good. But you know, it's like, would you want them to play knowing that there's a good chance those guys could snap it off? I mean, Koping Chung is a recent U.S. Open
They ask you
champion.
to play, are you going to tell them no? If you're a match room and they
No,
ask
no,
you,
no, hell no, no, no. I mean,
yeah,
there's no way you're not going to tell them no. You know, you want to play that event. You want the swing at the money for sure. You know, and so, and you better watch out because one, those two boys broke as good as any top tier player. Number one, number two, their pocketing ability is only going to get better. Not that it was subpar by any means, but them going
no, it's
striking
going to
up
be
over
like
there.
they're going to go there. They're going to go to Saudi. The table's going to look like a Valley bar table.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. And they had that that borderline soft uh 9 ball breakdown, you know, dialed in pretty good. So um but yeah, it just raises a lot of questions and just furthers that conversation that me and you were having the other day, Mike, as far as top players are leaving, so to speak. And this is like leaving in a different way compared to how we were discussing it with like Jason and Shane playing in Vegas, right? Because they're still playing American pool tournaments, but now you have the Co brothers who are going and playing a completely different discipline. And so it's real interesting the way that the landscape has shifted over the last you know, few years. And the Co brothers were on the top end of that mountain. You know what I mean? Like they have won titles. They have won. They have been doing pretty good in
Yeah,
those
yeah.
events. So
So,
yeah, but either way, pretty good score for them. Happy for them. You know, I've met them many times. They're really great dudes. They're really just down to earth guys. Real great on social media.
so,
What's up?
yeah. No, they're super packed.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they
yeah,
love,
yeah.
you don't have really long, drawn out conversations with them, but they're as pleasant
No,
as they come.
well, to their credit, the English has gotten better over the years. I will give them credit there because I remember
Oh, yeah, for
meeting
sure.
them at
For sure.
Mandalay at the U.S. Open years ago. You know, it was, you know, that was it. Just a smile and a nod. Okay. You know, and so but now Big Co's English is a lot better than Little Brothers, but even Little Brothers is on the upswing. So anyway, big congratulations to them. I'm curious to see what more players are going to go do it, if any, because the only guys that I can really
Yeah,
think of that would ever have any kind of success, Mike, relatively speaking, one, they'd have to be young and in their prime, because an SVB type player, I wouldn't fancy going out there, although the free roll would be interesting for
yeah.
him. You know what I
You
mean?
figure guys with
So
a name, guys with international guys with a name are going to get a free
Gucci's
roll
got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you because they want to get
Right.
some of these international players over there, so they can do that. But yeah,
Federer
for
comes to mind too,
international
Mike.
players to go over there, that's tough action, especially like do you enjoy two completely different products, right?
Sure.
This 9 ball on that Chinese 8 ball table. Ball is the 8 ball on those tables.
Right.
The hay balls, the field is so much deeper and just full of absolute killers, as someone mentioned on here. I mean, these guys who play hay ball all the time, and
Right.
so even like the Coes, and now the Coes, I imagine they'll play into hay ball as well. That's part, but their chances in the hay ball aren't anywhere near their chances in the 9 ball. I think a lot of the top hay ball players don't even play they don't play the Duya much because 9 ball is so much more of a crapshoot. And the way they play,
I don't know,
the
Mike, because
Duya
I saw Chu
is not a
Bingji out there.
What's that?
Chu Bingji, whatever his name is, that dude is like a top 3 hay ball player, and he was out there in the final 4 or final 8 out there in Duya. And to be honest, because I see his name and I'm like, okay, that's the dude's gonna snap it off. And then I see the Co brothers in the finals. I'm like, what the hell's going on? You know, but I don't think that difference is so far away like you're thinking, you know?
I don't know. When you get into it, for a couple of the hay ball players come over and play Duya, it's one thing to go over and play in the hay ball event with all those absolute 8 ball monsters. I mean, a lot of them don't play Duya, from what I understand, because it's nine ball is just a lot more of a crapshoot, and it's built for fast pace. It's got a weird scoring system. Breaking runs worth X amount of points. Table runs worth X amount of points. Victories worth extra points.
Yeah.
Foul earns you a point. They've got all this different point stuff, so it's a completely different animal. We'll find out, because I do expect the DUIA Legends series isn't as deep as the Joy Hayball series. Okay, so there's a lot more to Joy events. So I don't know that there's enough of the DUIA events for the Coast to just do nothing but play that. So you assume they're going to be into Hayball events. I'm just going to be interested to see how they do into Hayball events.
I'm going to be curious. Well, now all bets are off, because I would have lost a lot of money saying, "Oh, they got give me a year's worth of events. They ain't snapping anything off." And now here they are in January or February, whatever it is, and they're both snagging the bag, which is crazy. And so, and I think I without having spoken with anyone, I think that it'll just perk up everyone's ears seeing that they're having success, relatively speaking. And I know it's apples and oranges, but at least that, hey, I may not be so far off. And if that money's what it says it is, and if my expenses can be cut down, and even I'll just mention a guy like Federer, Mike, had a lot of success, just like the Cole brothers have over the last few years, make decent money on the World Nine Ball Tour and Pro Billiard Series circuit. But if I know I'm getting my expenses covered, right? And let's just be real, over the last 6 months, 8 months, he hasn't been as untouchable on the American pool table as we've seen in the prior years. So you wouldn't think he's got his kind of ears opened up and saying, man, maybe I might want to go give that a swing for a little bit.
I think if you're going to go try to make a living over there playing those events, I think you have to commit to those events. You have to commit to that.
Yeah.
I don't think you're playing Derby, and then you're playing WNT, and then you're going to swing by a DUIA event.
No. I agree. It's a whole
sure as hell not going to do that. You're not going to do that with Hayball. So you got to make a commitment. I see someone like Chris. He's like, okay, this is where I'll take my swing. He's in Asia events. So that's what I think you would have to do if you think that money's because, like I said, they've got 400, 500, 600 player fields who all get who all just are robots at the table.
Sure.
And so this isn't certainly not easy picking for a livelihood, especially if you're not even a native Asian player and you're going to be making these trips overseas every couple of months or staying over there, whatever. It's a
guy like Federer. I mean, he's already sponsored by a Chinese table manufacturer, and so I imagine he's got pretty decent connections out there. Assuming.
Like I said, he'd have to commit to it. He'd have to drop most of his other events and focus on that if he wanted to take a real swing at it.
To me, I feel like all bets are off. And before being able to make a little bit of money was if I'm playing in the Florida Open, for example, I got to get top 8 to make any money, maybe like $1,000, right? Maybe after my expenses. Whereas over there, even though it is top heavy, if I'm getting my expenses covered, well, now that top 8, whatever top 16 money is still better options because
$3,000 in the black,
and now I'm not, and I don't have to. I'm getting my nut already taken care of, and so again, it's a big leap. They're obviously more on the advantage because they're in that market. I'm sure they got tons of sponsors along with that, so it's lucrative for them on a number of different avenues. They're very shrewd businessmen, which I got a lot of respect for. They've done very well in branding themselves, even in the American pool market in terms of their products. So I've been a big fan of theirs either way, Mike. It's just I love the fact that it opens up the conversation because I don't think these were conversations that you could realistically go and have, even if it was just 12 hours ago. So and so we'll see how.
I will say, I mentioned this to somebody else too. Was if you're going to do that, do it now because I've been around long enough to see these bubbles burst, especially when they're all driven by a company and not a federation or an association or a league or someone that's got this various forms of support. So you got
get it while you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't blame them. And listen, for all the money you've been hearing in those bigger events, everyone's been hit by the things going on in the economy and things like that, and so they're not exempt from that. Um, and so they've had a lot of success, but like anything else, you ride the wave, and sometimes you're underneath it. And so either way, like hopefully for the players' sake, hopefully it lasts longer than it may be, and then hopefully they can go and make some money in the meantime, because there's some phenomenal talent out there. I mean, there's some fucking killers out there that play hay ball
Oh my God.
and do ya. And I remember one of the last times I went to Vegas, they had
they're getting better every year.
yeah.
In the early days, someone over here mentioned Garrett Potts, transition from snooker. Well, he dropped snooker completely and played nothing but hay ball, and that's what his focus was. And he got in the early stages of it. Guys like Mick Hill, even Chris Melling went over and did really well a couple of early tournaments. But once that money got big and the locals started spending 23 hours a day working on their hay ball game, that all changed. So
follow the money, and I can't say I blame them in any regard. Anyhow, Mike, a lot of other stuff going on in the pool world as well. The beginning of a WPBA tournament out there in Florida, 50,000 added out there at Classic Billiards.
It's pretty sporty to start the year for the ladies.
Right. Yo, of course. Yeah. And it's a big event. You can tell by the class of female competitors that are out there from all over the globe.
64 field, which, usually they're 48, right? The women.
No, I think they're usually still filled, but they're not like you had Cheska coming in as an unseeded player, which I'm sure Jasmine appreciated yesterday. And so, but it was, it's pretty great. I mean, you got some top tier talent, which obviously we both love seeing. It's a great start to their season, so kudos to them for going out there and sparring. A lot of great players, like you mentioned, they're getting tuned up for Las Vegas as well, which is great. So you're going to start seeing these ladies over the next month all over your pool screens, which is great. I mentioned the Cheska match. It was a rematch of the World 8-Ball final, Mike. The first round, first draw, Jasmine's a seeded player, and she draws into the unseeded Cheska Centeno from the Philippines. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I like that roll.
Yeah. I could have seen the eye roll from here, so but it's just interesting because that's how seeing these ladies come in and play that don't play necessarily all the time in WPBA, right? And Jeanette Lee made her way back amongst others, but it's like it really opens the field up and really makes it kind of brutal. And listen, we talk about the way that WNT can be a bit cookie cutter at times. Seeding's the same, tournament's the same, this is the same, this is all the same shit all the time, over and over and over again, right? And so, but now you got these events like the PBA where, if Cheska's coming in as an unseeded player and it's a rematch of the World 8-Ball final, which it could have very well been the final of this tournament, depending on where she ended up, I say it's pretty sporty. And then, by the way, I want to give a shout out I don't want to be that American, Mike, but I want to give a shout out to one that me and you are both fans of, in Miss Savannah Easton. Takes Han Yu to the hill yesterday in the opening round. Tell me that's not stand up for a kid who just turned 16 years old, to take Han Yu to Hill.
Winning this match right now. What the hell? It was actually second round.
She's coming.
What, second round? But yeah, she's had some of these. She's certainly learning how to live with heartbreak, because she's the last 2 or 3, 4 times she's played one of these top players, she's come a game short, right? And those got to hurt. So, she's such a great player, and she's so dialed in to getting better and playing these players. I can't wait to see her get over to Hill against these players, at
it's coming.
Basis. Yeah.
No,
Sophia Mass still on the winner's side from what I saw.
She had a couple of great wins as well, to be expected, in my opinion, given the draw. And she's blossomed into a staple and a pillar of that WPBA circuit, in my opinion. She's done well in open women's events, open women's world championship events. And I'm not talking about juniors, Mike. I'm talking about the who's who of ladies, just signature wins and losses. And that's one thing that I really admire about the for some of these American girls who have chosen to be more on the active side when it comes to their career, because you get judged on a lot of different things, Mike, and it's not just like the wins, right? Because don't get me wrong, you got a lot of people who are rooting for you, but it's tough to have those losses in general, but they have them publicly, regularly, consistently. And what that does to you is that sharpens you up, that toughens you up, where you're not afraid of 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 those moments, in my opinion, Mike. And I feel like that gives them a really big edge on the competition, because they're coming into this professional scene already. Like when they're paying their dues, it's not like where hell you may play a whole season and maybe you'll get on TV table twice. Now you're pretty much getting TV table type experience, because Savannah gets pretty decent numbers on her socials, when she streams her matches, as does Sophia. And so you're getting those like TV table type experiences. And then as you grow your fan base, then you're fast tracked onto being on the actual formal TV table regularly and consistently. And then you start chopping down big wins. Or listen, we've seen Christina lose heartbreaking matches to only become world champion. We've seen it from the Fishers at the same time. Everyone goes through these levels, Mike, and these girls, I'm telling you, man, they're coming. They're coming. They're gonna be carrying that trophy at the end of these tournaments here sooner than later. I mean, real soon.
You look at someone like Savannah, we're talking about how close she is now. Whatever. She's 4 years from turning 20.
Crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
So you got to figure by the time she hits 20, if she's still going, at the pace she's going now, she's going to be, world beater.
Oh, I'd say she snaps off a WPBA event if not this season, by next season at the latest. I would bet a pretty decent amount of money that happens, because to me the writing's just on the wall, and those pieces she's got to put together are right there, and then it becomes a matter of, okay, will the pool gods let you go and put them together? You know what I mean? But I feel like from a talent standpoint, she's got all the right ingredients. But it's great. There's a lot of great players who are there, like you mentioned. Sylviana Liu is there. Amber Chin loses to Margaret Fefilova, and Margaret comes back to beat her last night as well. Just a lot of great ladies out there, Mike. And Weiwei's there. Fishers are there. There's I love seeing, like, when you start getting all these top girls together, and there's enough of a field where you got a little bit of time to get your wheels greased for the most part. Now, obviously, Jasmine Ocean didn't, because she ran into the buzzsaw that is Cheska Centeno, right? But for the most part, like, these top girls they got at least a round or two to get going. You know what I mean? And so it from a value standpoint, it's pretty good for them as well. And like I mentioned, I'm glad that we're going to start seeing them on your screen for the next month, just running around the U.S. playing in big tournaments.
Yeah, no, it's a lot to look forward to there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. All right, Mike. You ready to transition to the big announcement that came after yesterday, or yesterday, I should say? Because
the clamoring, people heard, we want Justin, and I know everybody wanted him. I know Matchrooms wanted him. It was always really, to me, just a matter of, how much does Justin want it. So, I was actually a little bit surprised to see him go ahead and grab that spot. But it's going to be a great, get back into the swing of things type of event for him, because he'll play a lot of matches. Not going to be a lot of long matches. He's going to get plenty of swings in. And he obviously, he wasn't going to be going out to Vegas. It didn't appear for any Predator events. So, it's great. It's good. It's a good get for Matchroom. Get him out there. Everybody's dying to see him, so I'm sure his matches will get a lot of airtime. And I'm anxious to see how he does. Everybody talks about, okay, you put him in this situation, he'll be fine with like tight tables. The break favors him now as opposed to the old break, things like that. We're going to find out a lot in a hurry. It's just really easy to sit back in your chair the last couple of years and say, if we had Justin Bergman, he'd do this. If we had Justin Bergman, he'd do that. Now we get to see, what does he look like playing Fran? What does he look like playing Moritz? What does he look like playing, all these other guys, Robbie Capito, whoever else? And he's going to get a lot of practice against a lot of different guys, which to me is that'll be a good eye test, right? I don't want to see him go to a tournament, play 3 matches. He loses 2 of them. He played 3 guys. You've seen what you're going to see. Now he's going to play a shit ton of matches against a lot of really good players, and they're not long matches, but it's going to be to a certain extent it's a Mosconi type of.
Oh, give me a break here, Mike. I mean, fundamentally.
Well, I mean, it's like, just in terms of your mentality of going to the table, you can't get behind. You can't. Sure. You're not going to come back from 7-1 down, things like that. So, it'll like fast track him into the mindset that we would expect to see if he made Mosconi Cup, right?
Well, let me tell you, he's making the Mosconi Cup after seeing his announcement on the on the PLP. You can take that to the bank, along with the other American who'll be carrying the flag. He'll be there like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and there will be Thorsten carrying the red, white, and blue. And so.
So you're telling me right now that the team is already set with Shane, Sky, Federer, Justin, and Torsten. Season's over. Everybody go home.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. I think I honestly, out of all those guys, Mike, out of all those guys, the only guy I feel like would need to have something to prove or wouldn't be an automatic would be Sky at this point. And it's not. And listen, I know what he's done over there over the years, but Thorsten's getting in on points. You can guarantee that. Look at where he already started the season at with Florida. He was out there in Taiwan as well, collecting more points. I don't know how he did, but he's going to be collecting more points, and because of his dedication and professionalism, and what it looks like to be, at least at the beginning of the year, his travel season, he will be on there on points. And so that coasted ride, that one where you can put your feet up and in Cadillac mode like you had the last couple of years, ain't going to be that way anymore, buddy, because someone's taking an automatic. And by the way, when it comes to the pecking order, it'll always be SVB, Federer, and then everybody else. And so nobody's good enough. Nobody's good enough to have infiltrated those top 2 guys, no matter where they're at. And so you're going to find out real quick, unfortunately. And the fact that Justin got in just further leads me to believe that he will be out there. And I know I would bet some money, if anybody would be willing to take that action, that he will be out there come this December in Orlando, along with Shane and Federer.
I think he's got a good chance. It's be interesting to see how he does, from a point standpoint.
I don't think it matters.
That he'd make a wild card, right? But no, it probably doesn't. But I want to see him. Like I said, I've said all along, I want to see him play. Mantram talked about having more events in the U.S., right? Okay, so say there's 3 or 4 swings in the U.S. I want to see him in every one of those, and I would kind of guess that kind of. At least a soft commitment somewhere in the discussion when they were talking to him about PLP.
You think so?
It's not like come and play in the PLP and you can take the rest of the year off.
Listen, you're not. You're not catching my man.
Yeah. So I think that there's kind of like a gentleman's agreement that come and play the PLP, but we expect you to see you in at the Florida Open, at the U.S. Open, wherever. And so, he'll get more of those opportunities that'll be straight up points opportunities. I want to see, is he a guy that's, going to make, the 3rd point spot at $18,000 like we've seen in the past years, which would be disappointing. I want to see, some activity. I want to see some success.
Well,
some higher level finishes. If I want to get hopeful for December, I just don't want to see him make the team. I want to see a couple tournaments in this year where he hits 16, 8, whatever.
You still have to remember, Mike. I mean, there was listen, I'll always go back to using the post-COVID tournament scene as the example here, because there was a lot of guys who came back after all that time off, and they were not the same player when it comes to the field and it took time. Is my point. It took a lot of time for some of these guys to get back in full gear.
It's not like Justin has been playing the last couple of
He
years.
hasn't though, Mike. I mean, don't give me that he's been playing now in the last year on the Brunswick bar table. That's going to be the example. Now, I'm not discrediting the guy's abilities whatsoever. No, don't get it twisted here. But to think that it's just going to be, just I'm gonna go and put the queue together and go and make some waves on the WNT circuit. You better, you got another thing coming, at least at the beginning. Now, could he? For sure he could. He's got that kind of skill set. And I do feel like that break does go in favor of him. Like it fundamentally, I do. Right. But you still have to go and see it at the same time. Like you still have to go and see pen to paper. And so that's the part of it that I think will take a little bit of time, but could he get there for sure? Now, to your point about that gentleman's agreement, there's got to be, because if not, there's no way you're just throwing him out there like this. And
that it's starting in February, so
great point, Mike.
There's going to be a lot of, you're hoping to see him a lot this year. Now, again, I just don't see him going to the European Open. I see him going to, Vietnam
UK Open,
or something like that. Don't see it. So, yeah.
Raymond says he's got to figure out that break, and I agree. And the reason why I always said that the break fundamentally would favor Justin is because it's more of a shot than it is like a muscled break, which Justin was always historically terrible at, and so this new modern break that we're in when it comes to 9-ball, but still got to get it dialed in for sure. Tight pockets is a big +1 for Justin because he's very smart. Justin is not the fastest guy on earth when it comes to his decision making, so being on an expedited time frame in order to shoot will be something that he'll have to get acclimated to again as well. Plus, the level of competition is just different when it comes to Ultimate Pool USA and the World 9-Ball Tour. And I don't care. Listen, this PLP event, relatively speaking, is subpar at best, especially when you consider the fields that we've had before, or in years past, I should say. But even still, if you're expecting a high finish from him, I would say just hold your breath a little bit because it's going to take
I'm not
time.
expecting anything. I have no expectations. I'm just glad that he's going to get the kind of real workout that he's going to get.
Oh, this is as good as it gets, Mike. Yeah,
he's going to get guaranteed playing, 7, 10, whatever matches, and they're going to be all against good different players. Sure. I think that's a real plus. That's a really good. Okay, let's see where for him. Let's see where my game's at. Let's see what I got to work on. Let's see how these guys are that we're playing these days. So yeah, it'll be an eye opener for him. And I don't expect anything out of him here, but I expect him to learn. Is what I expect him to come out of here with.
Oh man, it does not get any better to see where you really are in the totem pole than this event right here, because you're facing top 32 guys over and over and over and over and over again. You're facing it's not, you're not facing top 4 guys, but you're facing, a decent a decent competitive field there consistently. And with that, you can go back to the lab and know exactly the areas that you're going to have to go and work on. And Justin's more than capable of plugging up any holes that he's going to find out that he has in that ship of his, and so, because like I said, there will be some, and you mentioned before, like you start seeing a field put together, and you'll have this like shorter, like you'll be able to tell who is on the bottom end of the field. I think realistically speaking, he may end up there when the tournament's all said and done. Hell, he may go and snap it off, and I'm not saying he can't, but I would expect him to be more on the lower end of it, just given that this is his first tournament back. But what I do expect is he'll come back so much more stronger than that as well. So Gideon says, been on a short clock in Ultimate Pool, 30 then 15 seconds. Look, making decisions on the bar table and making decisions on a 9-foot table is not is apples and oranges. So, plus the format lends itself to, like, if you got a lead, then you can kind of like, you can play out that clock to your advantage where, the clock is, Justin's historically been just a slower guy, and from the number of pump fakes that he does to getting up. I mean, he's like Kachi when he gets down on the ball and then back up and then the air strokes. And I mean, you'll see it, you know what I mean? And I love Justin, man. I love Justin. I love his game. I saw him out there at Quincy this past year. And that's the part that was brutal because I wanted to talk to him then, Mike. And this was in July. Me and Collins were cooped up in the booth, got to see him for a minute and say hello. But I wanted to find some time to talk to him. And the tournament was over before you knew it. So if I was out there in Florida, I'd go camp out, go sweat the action, go get a few minutes with him. And hopefully we're going to try to get him on here pretty soon. We've been both kind of working the connections to see if we can get him
I'd love to hear what he's got to say. We've all been dying for a couple of years to something out of his mouth on his, future and his desires and wish list and
right. Yeah. And I want to just say this, like, I think you got to give the guy a lot of respect to his first tournament back, going in there to a field like that, because it is not ideal. It is not an easy Cadillac, get your wheels greased type of event. These are solid guys that you're going out there and playing, Mike. Moritz is the former champion, but he's also one of the top Europeans as well, And so, and that's just one of the guys. Yap has been tearing up and been the number one player on tour. I mean, there's a lot of class there, and even these secondary guys have been causing waves. And by the way, these secondary guys, Mike, they're hungry. They're hungry to get their own spot on that stage. And so that's something that you're going to be seeing from a lot of these like Jesus type guys, Mora type guys like that, who one good finish and you'll get TV table coverage for the rest of the year on the Matchroom circuit, So it's a lot of little things that are at stake for a lot of these guys and big opportunities for them as well. But like when I saw the silhouette, right? And I always thought, because Matchroom, like, look, we were reaching to some extent being excited about the Kachi brothers being in there, but for the most part, like, this has been a fucking dud of a PLP announcement when it comes to like the players list. It's been one wah after another, And so when I saw that, when I saw that silhouette, I was like, it kind of looks like Bergman. I didn't hear nothing. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't ask no questions, nothing like that, But I just said that kind of looks like Justin Bergman. And Matchroom, to their credit, they always try to do a little twist at the end, last minute. They always will try to just spice it up a little bit, and they're not dumb. Her and the team are very smart in that regard to get people excited about these little things. But I thought it was a great move given how the fan base has been barking for seeing him play in their events. It gets people excited about the Mosconi Cup again, because now with Justin even coming on the PLP, Mike, now you got hope. You got hope now, and you may still be drawing dead as an American fan, but at least you got just a little glimmer of hope, because it's been hopeless the last few years, So,
right. Well, yeah.
We'll see how it ends up shaking out. Eric Lacey says it's a perfect environment to prove all the naysayers that he does belong on the Mosconi Cup team. Yeah, look, I think Justin's got every bit of capable talent to be a top 5, a top 3 American, in my opinion. And he can cause damage on the world scene, but he'll be rusty coming in like anybody else. He's human. I would expect the same level of rust as we did all these top guys. Dennis coming back post-COVID was rusty. The Cole brothers coming back were rusty. There was a lot of guys who played really great that were rusty post-COVID. Raymond says, I do think it signals two things, and I was going to get to this here as well, because I agree with you, Raymond. It says Justin is an automatic for the tour card, but I think it's also an automatic for the wild card as well. And number two, and more importantly, Mike, I think this further, and I agree with Raymond 1,000,000%. I think this further just indicates that Scott Frost will be the captain of Team USA and I'm sure it'll be announced shortly. And I want to get your thoughts on that.
I don't know. I'm not going. I don't know what that means. For Scott. I assume Scott had a hand in talking to Justin about playing the PLP. But I don't know whether that to me automatically signals that Scott Frost will be the captain of Team USA. So I'm sitting on that for now.
Fair enough. I'll let you off the hook because I didn't prep you for this one. I just kind of tossed that one out there. Look, I would bet that it's a pretty decent sized favorite, especially given the way that it looks there. Now, Scott was the one that went out on the record and said, Justin's going to play and kind of put his money where his mouth is, and to his credit, which is not an easy thing to do, especially considering Justin's inconsistency when it comes to his commitments in the professional pool scene, and this is at least a good start. It's still not enough, but I'm sure in short time you'll see that Justin will be playing more and more.
I hope so, because it's just it's when Scott got a little frosty on our podcast. It was kind of me questioning Justin's, not question whether Scott could talk to him, but whether Justin would buy it and stick to his guns and say, I'm going to do this year. I'm going to get it all the way through. This is a great start. Didn't see it is at all.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if this does lead to him playing in more events. If he looks like he's excited, if he's got a decent game going, then it all sounds good.
Look, I think Craigula says turning down Johan is insane. I'll get to that in just a second here, Craigula. But yeah, Mike, I think I'm just how when you're watching we'll go to the NFL, for example, right? One game, one play, one final drive. The next day it's Drake May is going to be a MVP of the year, and then Justin Herbert MVP, Matthew Stafford MVP, and then the next week it's all shifted, right? Lamar's coming, he's coming back to back, all these things, and it's kind of like that. I would say, percentage wise, I would say this makes Scott more of a favorite. Now, whether or not I would feel like it's a good fit or not is a whole different conversation. But where I would say, if I do believe that is a favorite or not, I would say so. It's certainly if he was involved in getting Justin into this event, it certainly puts him more in Emily's favor. I would say that, and so which, listen, it doesn't hurt to be in her good graces, So
no, it doesn't. Even when we talked to Scott, he mentioned what role he would play, be willing to play, or it wasn't like all or nothing. I need to be captain. He wants to be in.
Oh yeah.
He wants.
Yeah.
Whatever. So there, if this is
he had a lot of confidence.
Role, yeah. So maybe he's involved at a different level if he's not captain.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's all up in the air.
We shall see. Hopefully sooner than later. I can't wait to see him in an open event. I'll tell you that. And if he does have success, then it's gonna his success in this event will just further get fans' hopes and thirst and desire and hunger for the Mosconi Cup growing in February, which is cool, and needed, by the way. So for an event that was, lackluster over the last couple of years, to get this kind of breath of fresh air. And this is where I feel like Justin's got a lot more leverage than maybe he knows or he's aware of too. You know what I mean? Because he's a valuable commodity right now, and so it's great seeing him out there and jumping in the water. Kudos to them for getting it. I think it opens up a whole other list of questions, though, depending on the players you go and ask. But for the event itself, it's definitely going to be a plus one. Hustler 210 is asking about the Predator event in San Antonio. So I don't know where the event's going to be at in San Antonio, but I do know it will be over the Sunday before Thanksgiving, all the way through that following Monday after Thanksgiving.
He said it was in a big hotel, or not a convention, a big hotel and the river.
Oh yeah. He did say that. Yeah,
he didn't mention.
I forgot.
He did
I'll ask.
mention the.
Did he mention? I don't remember. Yeah, but I know he did mention it was by the Riverwalk. That part I do remember.
Yeah, he meant the property. I just don't know whether I probably wrote it down, but I have so many pieces of paper on my desk that it's someplace.
Hopefully, I'll be able to make it out there. I'm gonna try to go out there in St. Louis as well. Which, by the way, you mentioned Justin Bergman playing in more events. He's scheduled to play on that event. He's on the flyer. He's on the poster. They said they spoke with him. He's committed to it. So it being in his backyard. And look, Mike, we've always kind of one of the main questions about Justin has always been his travel schedule. Right, him going to Miami is out of the St. Louis area. So, or I mean Miami, right? Is out of the St. Louis area. So. It does kind of. He's
probably driving already.
He would too, man. He would too. So, look, it's a start, right? It's a start. Obviously, we both wish him well. Wish him nothing but success.
This is what we do. This is what we do as American fans. Every year, we look for someone who's got absolutely, either no history at all or doesn't play 9-ball, plays really good one pocket or whatever, that we kind of like throw these blind hopes.
We need something, Mike. We need something to like hold on to, man. That's the problem. We need fans, like fans of all sports, just need something to buy into, right? Just some kind of like small glimmer of hope. I mean, you may be drawing dead, right? But you just gotta have like something. And so I think Justin is the beginning of that. And again, what like I mentioned a little bit ago, what I love about it is that we're starting now. We're starting in February. Give me a Mosconi Cup captain announcement soon, and let's start seeing these guys play under the microscope for the entire year. And like I mentioned before, and this is the other thing. What I'm going to be curious to see is who's going to be traveling and competing, and who's not going to be traveling and competing. Given the fact that one, Thorsten's already way ahead when it comes to points compared to everybody else, and number two, right, that now with the addition of Justin Bergman being realistically thrown into that mix, who's going to say, this may be a little, I don't want to go and travel to compete at that event for Mosconi Cup points, because it's not as easy as it was over the last year or two. So we shall see, Mike. And so. But either way, some fresh blood will always be good. And the other thing that I was thinking of when I saw that silhouette, Mike, was that I was hoping it'd be Justin, but then the other thing I was thinking of is, could it be Hayden? And then I was like, man, I hope they don't throw that kid out there first time. Because as much as I want to see him, I was like, that's brutal to be thrown into that mix, at that age, and so, but either way, it's, they caused a decent way. But I want to ask you this, man, because I got a couple of messages from players, and they're decent. They're great players. They're touring players, or ish, somewhere around there. And but one of the responses I got was, it's kind of brutal that Justin gets in on PLP because he's not even a WNT pro, and he's getting in to an invitational type event. And then I got another message basically echoing the same thing, where it was like, I travel all over the world, and I didn't even get into consideration for it, and this guy doesn't even play any WNT events and gets in on one of these invitational type tournaments.
Yeah, well, this is right now. This is really their only invitational tournament. Right. And we've known all along that the PLP is cherry picking, content providing, mechanism for them. So, this is their, freebie, as far as we're making this up the way we want to, in terms of getting it from certain countries.
But what are the repercussions of that, though, Mike? Because there are repercussions to those types of decisions.
There wouldn't be repercussions if they stuck to their original idea of having multiple invitational events that you earn your way into the other ones, and the PLP is our free ride.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you would get a pass from the fans and from the players.
If the PLP was 16 players, it should be top 8, and then we get 6, whoever we want. We can pick Andy Goldstein.
Let me ask you, did you get the call, Mike?
So
did they ask, was your phone ring?
Yeah, but I don't have time.
Yeah. Miami's overrated anyway. All right, my bad. Go ahead.
So I mean, this one to me is their free roll. They can pick whoever they want.
But here's the problem, Mike.
No one really earns their way into the PLP.
There's nothing that the ranking buys you at this point, though, right? Because I mean, like,
yeah. That's not that doesn't have anything to do with the PLP. That has to do with the
but doesn't that make it more brutal then, Mike? Because it's like, listen, there's no World Cup of Pool, there's no World Pool Masters, right? We all know the politics behind the Mosconi Cup and Reyes Cup.
All it does is let players know that points don't mean anything unless you want to be on Mosconi. So go to events or don't go to events, your call. The points don't get you anything.
No.
So yeah, I mean that's basically it's right out in front of you, so make your own decision.
For better or worse, right? And it does seem more black and white, but at least there is some kind of like at least it's about as obvious without coming out and just saying it directly as you can go and get at this point. So if you decide to go in and chase it, right, and chase the carrot, well, then it's kind of like you always knew how they roll, and they were very public about choices that they go and make and the manner in which they go and make them. And I know there was a lot of players who, at least from what I've heard anyway, who turned down that invitation. So I saw one guy talking about Chua. Who knows if Chua turned it down? Because I know a lot of top guys who were in that Chua type range and above, who did turn down.
Chua's not going to be in Vegas either, is he?
I don't know. I
didn't see him on the list in Vegas, so Chua just not traveling or something, because and it's a long way to go. PLP is a long way to go for not a lot of guaranteed payoff. So, otherwise I think they would have invited JB Sukal. we'd have had a
I thought for sure they were getting JB over, but that's crazy. You really ain't got no top Filipino, no Carlo, no Chua. No, I know James isn't allowed here in the States right now, but I mean, there's a lot of guys that fans want to go and watch. Bernie, Starboy, huh? That's the guy you're. Look, I'm just saying it's very like it's gonna take the piss out of guys, and that's what I meant about the repercussions of it. Like you were already running that locker room dry with the events and the lack of money in some of these events, right? And the lack of ability to go and make money at these events. But then on top of that, when you start making moves like that, it just further just says, you know what, I'm good, man. I don't want to go and play that game because it's just shitty, no matter which way you go and look at it. And so
people were willing to do it, even though the cost was so high, because it looked like there was some return, some potential. But now there's not. So it's just, am I going to play in the tournament or am I not going to play in the tournament? Yes or no?
That's your
choice.
Yeah, right. And I'll mention
points to Vietnam, chasing points to the Philippines. I don't see any American players doing that.
Fuck no, no chance. What's it? No. It's brutal though, man. Think about a kid like Bernie, right? He was the next guy up for points out there in the Reyes Cup or whatever it was, right? AJ gets picked over him basically, right? Yeah. And he made that money, get that pump and that boost up, and then on top of that, and then you get into PLP again, because wasn't he in there last year, right? Isn't that what you said? So now,
right.
So now you get into PLP again. Right. So all these guys who were like working, man, blood, sweat, and it don't fucking matter. They don't give a fuck. You gotta really do something to stand out. and even then you got to get their attention, because you may think that you're doing good and you may think you're dominating and you may think you go and play well. It doesn't matter. Clearly it doesn't matter.
You're not even.
He ain't listen.
You're not even on the
No. They put the sticky pad up and it fell off, and they were like, okay, moving on, And so, but that's the part that I feel like is tough. And listen, don't get me wrong. I love having some of these guys. if like fundamentally, if we had the season like we're supposed to have, right? If players had the season they're supposed to have, then these guys who are invitationals, whatever, this is the one exception. This is the one time a year where you get these wild card type guys. I get that, you know. But now that there's nothing on merit to go and earn towards and earn for and all these things, it's like, man, okay, you go out there, you play the tournament. I would just stay regional, you know, because make sure
it's kind of a head scratcher, you know, and I don't know the financial dynamics or the logistics of trying to do a World Pool Masters and a World Cup pool and things like that.
Well, let's just think about it, Mike, for a second, because you're paying for all their flights, hotels. Yeah, you're paying for all those guys' flights and hotels or matchroom, right? So that's an expense, big expense.
Oh yeah, no, the World Pool Masters was a pretty big nut,
and
the World Pool Masters are pretty big.
From their standpoint. Listen, they just cracked what 1.5 million followers on Facebook, right? So they're aware of the value of content, and I'm sure it's lucrative for them because I'm sure they make money on their social media accounts, given all that movement on there, right? But so you have all that, and they're aware of what guys go and move the needles and what guys don't go and move the needles, you know. And so it's very it's tough for some of these guys, you know. And
to me, it's just really interesting because historically, Matchroom was all about those invitational events for the very fact that they could control the field, the size of the field, the cost of the event. It was all in a budget right in front of them. And now
but they're stretched out over 12 months.
Well, and plus they've scratched that for events that are much more costly and run you into the red. 256 player fields, 8 days in a hotel in Atlantic City, 32 tables, all that kind of shit. You know, they increased their costs.
I don't know if I'd buy that, Mike. I would imagine they get some kind of kickback from casinos or hotels for the amount of rooms they go and sell. That's why they're leveraging players to make sure they're staying on site. I'm guessing, and I don't know any of their business when it comes to that, but I would be shocked if they don't, because that's a very smart move by them. You know,
the cost of going in there. I mean, I know they get free rooms and they get this and they get kickbacks, whatever.
Oh yeah.
There's no way that the cost of running a week-long 256 player open event in Atlantic City is anywhere near as efficient as running a 24 player World Pool Masters in Gibraltar. Not a chance in the world.
Look, hold on a second, because you get 24 players, right? Eight are going to be a bye, right? So 16 matches, so you get, or 16 players, you get 8 matches. Then from there you're down to 16, so you get another 8 matches, so there's 16 matches. Then from there you're down to what 8, so there's another 4, so you're at 20 matches. So basically you get between whatever it is, 25 matches, 30 matches, somewhere around there for that event, right? But for but for a US Open, you're getting a week's worth of matches. You're getting more matches. And especially when you think about from a content standpoint, an event like the PLP, I don't even know how many matches these motherfuckers go and play. I mean,
PLP is a programming machine for them. So
yeah, but then that's why I imagine it's more attractive from the matchroom side of things, because you're still having the same expense of taking your whole team over there for a week, right? Just like you would anything else. But from the content that you're able to squeeze out of it and how the money you're able to make on that back end of it, well, now it's more attractive because you get more bang for your buck. I mean, like,
it's more attractive now because they're doing 2, 3, 4 tables. So the first couple of years, they were still doing one television table, and that was it. So it didn't matter whether it was the World Pool Masters or the US Open. You know, you were doing matches a day on television, and that was it.
Look,
so you're getting more content now. Still not the type of content that for decent money overseas, because these other tables don't have any announcers. It's a still camera. It's whatever. I don't know if you're getting the same from that content.
From a business standpoint, I get it, and it's smarter for sure. It's smarter, and it's not even close. But when you can't lose the credibility of guys going and playing in your open events or guys turning down your invitational events because now you're not the prettiest girl at the prom anymore, and you have to realize that at some point as well before you go and lose a locker room. Because listen, as much as you can have a lot of stuff to go and sell to people, at the end of the day, like we've talked about time and time again, fans, for the little bit of pool fans we got, we want to see top guys go and play, period. We want to at least see them.
Yeah.
We want to at least see them in that mix for sure. Eric Lacey says, what do you think about DeLuna offering 7 out 10 Latin American player? Look, Jeff's always offered big spots for a lot of cash. It's always Jeff's thing. He's been doing that for forever. So I don't think he gets there against Jesus' break, but we'll see if the match goes and happen. Mike,
Raymond also asked something about waiting to hear on Jesus' status. But he said we still don't know what Jesus' status is. But Emily did say at some point, someplace, that he was not a consideration this year.
Well,
as far as the U.S., as far as the Moscone Cup, things like that.
If something were to shift, I would bet you they would do whatever they could to make sure that happened. Because for
a tournament, or all of a sudden you'd find a way to get them on Team USA.
Gee, they're gonna go fucking buy him a blonde wig. You know what I mean? They're gonna, they're gonna figure it out. Whatever it is that they got to do to get Jesse on Team USA. So it's look. And I hate to say this. Actually, I don't hate to say this. It is what it is. Like, the Americans kind of did it to themselves, and for
no doubt about it. If they're good enough, we wouldn't be having these conversations.
No, not at all. And so I don't feel it is shitty for some, but there's always look, even whenever you had Federer get added to the mix, there was always that guy who was number 5 who now got bumped down to number 6. And now that if you had the addition of Thorsten, that next guy who was number 5 is now going to be number 6. So just because he's more popular or more fanfare or this or that or whatever in that part of the country or this part of the country, it's like now he's just getting to taste what everybody else got to taste right below him, and it's just the pecking order when things aren't competitive. And it's not been a compelling event. And especially that was their golden nugget right there, is that Moscone Cup. So whatever you got to do to make sure that thing is alive and well and thriving and tickets are selling and it's a fucking party and it's chaotic and it is, loud and all those things. And it can be, and they do a great job at everything else around the arena. They do a good job and inside the arena. But when it came to that level of play on the table and the sports side of it, it bottomed out as far to the bottom as it could go and get over the last couple of years. And so that's where these things have to go and change. They have to go and make those decisions. And then listen, you give me a team with Jesus, Justin Bergman, Federer, Shane, and Sky. Whew, come on. Give me, flip.
About the same team we had with 2 guys we've never seen.
It's hope, Mike. I just want hope. You're a fucking Bears fan, Mike. You ought to know what that's like. Look, man, I'm telling you. And listen, look, I love Thorsten, great player, world champion, very decorated. Look, be careful what you ask for with that guy making the team, because I've seen Thorsten in some high pressure situations over the last couple of years, and that back arm can get a little tight at times, and so that's all I'm going to say. And that's without that Moscone Cup type of pressure and atmosphere. Now, he'll beat out Americans because the Americans are so mediocre. But these guys are going to have to go out there and play and compete and stay playing against tough competition if you want to expect to beat that team from Europe, because Europe, I don't care if it's 5 rookies, they're still going to be better than the Americans. They earn it. They play for it.
Captain's key.
We shall see. All right, Mike, you got anything else before we get on out of here?
No.
It's been a fun show, buddy. All right, listen, we're going to try to get some guests on here pretty soon. You might even get some guests during the PLP as well. And then, of course, Vegas is on the horizon. WPBA, I'm going to be watching that over the weekend. I know Federer and Tony were out there playing at the Texas Open in the one pocket final, which I don't know how that went. But I'll go check that out if that's on throughout the day. Yeah. I mean, well, Tony, to his credit, Tony beat Shane last night, and Tony even, which is an inspiration in and of itself, because Tony's at like fucking maybe 50%, of what he's capable. He can't even get down on the ball. What were you gonna say?
Are you going to any of the Predator Vegas? Are you going there at all for the World Teams?
I don't know. I still have to book my flight. I have to go to Vegas like soon. Like I have to go to Vegas in the next
you're going to
10
Vegas
days
for the
or
US
whatever.
Open, right?
Yeah. But I may end up going. I am gonna go. For right now, the idea is to go in on the last few days of the Westgate. So whatever event's going on as of right now, that's kind of.
That's just going to be the World Teams.
Oh, is that what it is? Well, that's the one I really want to see anyway, to be honest with you.
That's 2 or 3 days are just World Teams and Juniors, I think.
Yeah. So to be honest, Mike, out of all those events, the World Team is the one that I really want to see, like from the fan in me, and so
the World
Team
Teams is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah, so I think I was going to try to get there that Tuesday or Wednesday. So I'll have a couple of days out there. Collins will be setting up at Griff's. We wanted to swing by and just kind of network a little bit and check out the events and check out how the Westgate layout is and all that. And then, so yeah, I'll be out there for at least a little bit, but I may go sooner. It just depends. 'Cause I was talking with Oscar to see how, when he's going to go out there for the World Teams. And so I may just go crash with him for a couple of days and then end up meeting up with Collins and then all this other stuff. So, yeah, we'll see. Well, are you going to go?
Yeah.
When are you going to be out there? What dates?
I'm going to catch the tail end of the men's and women's Open and then stay there through the World Teams.
So Herbs and Rye?
I'll probably hold up. Yeah, I'll probably be watching from there.
Okay. We will probably be watching from there then. Okay.
Dad with me, setting up shop in the corner.
when I go give you a hug, I'm gonna drop an air tag in you, in your bag without you knowing it, and I'm just gonna see what Mike said. Herbs and Rye. I'm gonna go and check it out. By far, one of the best restaurants out there in Vegas. So, what happened to Barry Hearn talking about North America versus Europe? I don't remember that. He did mention that, did he?
Yeah, he absolutely mentioned it. But listen, you always have to know what Barry Hearn says. He speaks off the cuff, extemporaneously, emotionally, pie in the sky, and then he tells his team that they got to go get it done. And so a lot of this stuff happens to someone that doesn't. I mean, listen, they were opening up a New York office for pool and darts. I'll believe that when I see it.
Look, I don't know whose heart I'm going to break here, but I'm going to go out and break it anyway. Okay. The Canadians are not coming to save the Americans. Okay. They're not, and they can't, and they're not, they're not going to save the Americans, Mike.
John Moran narrative here. We got to run the John Moran narrative flagpole.
They ain't coming to save the Americans. They can't do it. They cannot. It ain't going to happen. Not even if they give them the green light, they still ain't going to go and save the Americans, so be careful what you wish for. And as a fan, I ain't trying to see it, so give me Thorsten, give me Jesus.
I'll take a German-born American over a Canadian. Is that what you're saying? Wow.
Say that again.
You go Canada. You say I'll take a German American over a Canadian.
Look, thanks all our sponsors for hanging out with us. No, listen, we're gonna have fun out there in Vegas. I'm sure we'll do more live stuff the next couple of days. Keep your notifications on. I'm gonna quit pissing off countries, Mike. So we'll see all you